Hi, I'm Steve, and we're at LZ23 Strength, where we strive to exert ourselves, elevate our health, and evolve in mind and body. Most people, they think that health span simply means living longer, but that's not the real goal. The real question is, how well will you live in your later years? Because if you're exhausted, medicated, isolated, lonely, in pain, that's not really winning. That's just basically surviving. So if you're in that state of mind, wanting to avoid those things, we need to have a different viewpoint. And really, what you want to do is build a sustainable framework for your health span that you can actually live with and follow through. I've made comments before on this that we don't just want to be alive, but we want to thrive. So we're not just chasing biohacks and the next most interesting thing out there. And we're excited. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of things that influencers and things are coming out in the medical field. AI will be helping, and biohackers, and we want to incorporate them. But there's basic things that we want to build into our daily lives that's going to have the most impact for us. We want to really we're not trying to get perfection, because none of us are going to achieve that, and many of us are going to fall way below. I know I do, and that can be discouraging where we want to give up. We want to look at capacity. What's our potential? What kind of things can we handle and do in our lives? For example, think of this. Can you get up off the floor? When was the last time that you're on the floor and you had to get up? How many body parts did you have to use? Did you have to use your knees, get on your hands, your elbows to push yourself up, bracing on things? Now think of that, how difficult it was. Maybe if somebody was filming you, how silly we might look. And then think 5, 10, 15 years in the future, are you going to be able to do that? How about another area? How about carrying groceries? Seems like a simple thing. If you had to carry your groceries to your car and then to your house, into your house, are you huffing and puffing? Are you in discomfort and pain? Is it a challenge? Again, projecting that into the future, these are simple things and simple tasks. How about even something like thinking clearly? We think of our cognitive health. Do you remember things? Remember songs, people's names? Do you remember things, or is it always on the tip of your tongue, but you can't quite do it? And memory's kind of challenging. How about, do you sleep well? Or is there weekly comments of, man, I'm not getting enough sleep, or I didn't sleep good, I'm tired, I'm exhausted? Or something else like staying connected with others, whether it's family, whether it's friends, coworkers, neighbors, whoever it might be. Are you connected? And these, like I said, are simple things that we might take for granted now, but as the years go by, these simple things could become challenging, and again, the quality of life could diminish. So we're trying to see what can we do, because I firmly feel that there's things that we can do on a daily basis. They don't all take an enormous amount of time, but they take some determination on our part and dedication that we're going to do that. And there's many things, but I bring them down to four basic things, four pillars, and these are foundational. So the first one deals with exercise and movement, and not just working out. That's my favorite thing. That's easy for me. But there's other things. It's not just going to the gym and getting a workout, but it's movement competency. And I say it a million times, movement means life. So we do need to be strong, especially as we age, but we also need balance. We also need to have endurance and energy, and that could come in the form of vigorous exercise. You might think of things like VO2 max and doing HIIT training, high intensity interval training, something like the Norwegian 4x4. But even as I mentioned, balance, and I have a few videos dealing with some of these recently that we might take these things for granted, that maybe in our 30s and 40s, it all seems pretty easy and natural. Get into your 50s, you might, if you really examine it, might see some of these things changing, and not for the better. So it's important to think of them and remember that muscle equals independence. And you'll watch a million podcasts and influencers, doctors, you name it, scientists that will tell you and tell us that the muscle is an organ of longevity, and that there's nothing that equals in the medicine world. There's not a pill that you can take that can rival what exercise and having a good VO2 max and having strength, leg strength, grip strength. All these things are going to really add to our lives. So that has to be built, as we said, we have to build a framework, a Healthspan framework that has to be built into our daily and weekly routines. Now, the second pillar deals with sleep, and this is the most underrated pillar because I think we all take it for granted. And I sleep. I have a friend of mine who says, "Yeah, I sleep. I sleep 7-8 hours every night." But is it quality? Is it something that we're doing all the time? Most people treat sleep like a luxury, where high performers treat it like a strategy. And that's where I feel that we take it for granted, and I did most of my life. I got way less sleep than I needed for the majority of my life because I didn't know any better. But now we have so many studies, so much information, so much knowledge that now I know. So I'm trying to do things to get better quality sleep, to get longer sleep. And that's the cool thing about everything that we're talking about, that we can make changes, we can improve in all of these areas. And specifically in sleep, we want to do it. We definitely want to do it. Sleep is not optional. And I've mentioned before, Brian Johnson says we should all be professional sleepers. So we want to put a lot of effort and thought into how we're doing it, our nighttime routines, so many things that we can do to improve. Third pillar, dealing with nutrition. And we want to emphasize that it's not diets. People will talk about diets a lot on YouTube and the internet. Diets, to me, seem like a very temporary thing. I'm going to go on a diet, kind of like I'm going to go on a little field trip or a vacation. You do something, but then it's over. And when we're talking about nutrition, it's a way of life. It's not something that we're going to do temporarily. And even when it comes to diets, most people are thinking, well, don't eat that. I can't have this. I shouldn't eat that. And we're not always looking at, well, diet, nutrition shouldn't be a restriction. So that's when the word diet, it's actually, when we think of nutrition, we're fueling our function and thinking of all the good things that we can put into our bodies that will help us feel better, that will help us perform better. And it comes to things like protein. No, we need protein, especially as we age, to not only build muscle, but to protect muscle. So how much protein are we consuming? What quality of protein are we consuming? How about whole foods to reduce inflammation? Most experts will agree that inflammation is basically fundamentally causing most of our diseases and sicknesses and ailments that we have. And when I talked about diets and restricting things, yeah, there are things that we need to restrict from our diet that really cause inflammation, but there's so many positive, healthy foods that can help us not have inflammation. And certainly we need enough food. We want to keep our weight at a healthy level, but we don't want to be starving ourselves because we do need the food and nutrients to fuel function. The fourth area, which is actually the forgotten pillar, is community. And loneliness shortens health span. And I have a video out a little while ago dealing with the loneliness epidemic. And this has been talked about and written about all over, that there is a loneliness epidemic. Also, going along with that, depression that many people are dealing with. And recently, statistics here in the United States of how many people at all different age groups, when I'm talking about loneliness, it's not just older people, it's younger people too, all different age groups dealing with loneliness and unhappiness. And that's where having community does a lot. People with strong social ties heal faster, they think clearer, and they live longer. And that's especially true. I'm sure you've heard of blue zones, where family, friendships, community, it's woven into the fabric of their daily lives. It's cemented into their routines. It's not something that they have to think about. We might have to do that if we're looking at it in our lens of how we're living, but it's something that comes natural in the blue zones. And did I mention they live longer? So that's something that we don't want this to be a forgotten pillar. We want it to be something that's part of our lives. And remember that Healthspan is not a solo sport. We might think of some of the areas like exercise and nutrition, but you have to have community, you have to have close relationships. It's not a solo sport in that pillar, which is vital in all areas for us to be able to have a good health span. So we talked about those four pillars, and I've mentioned it before in other videos. I know you're aware of them. There's many other factors that come into play, but those are foundational, and we need to have those in our weekly framework of our routines. And as we do them, those four pillars, it's going to make a huge difference. And it's not being extreme in any area, being obsessed, but balance. And I've talked about this before too. Healthspan is built on balance. But with balance in mind, we can't just pick one of those pillars and that's our focus, because if we do that, we will inevitably fail. So the question then remains, which pillar are you neglecting? And which pillar are you going to strive to improve? Start there, and it'll make a world of difference. And your health span and longevity and just your happiness on a daily basis and function, you'll continue to thrive. So I appreciate you watching. I ask that you smash the like button and hit the subscribe button. Leave a comment maybe on which pillar you're struggling with, which one's your strength, and maybe your goals. But we appreciate you watching. And if I did mention it, I know I did, please subscribe. And we look forward to talking to you in our next video. Have a great day.